Welcome to the Shift podcast, where midlife, medicine, and mindset meet. We're breaking the silence around women's health and simplifying the path to feeling strong, clear, and better than ever. Hosted by me, Heidi Swapp, with insights from Dr. Vohn Watts and stories from real women, the Shift podcast is here to challenge the narrative, empower you with information, and create a new vision for your next chapter. Hey there, welcome back to The Shift. I am Heidi Swapp, and I'm here with Chelsi Wood, brain specialist, and Dr. Watts, brain specialist. No, I'm just kidding. You know what? We are going to talk about brain health today. And every single person, no matter how old you are, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your life is like, you have a brain. And we want it to be as healthy as possible. And we want it to be optimized. We need it to work. And I think that, isn't it crazy how genuinely we take our brain for granted? It's like, it's just going to do its thing. Even when it used to be this conversation, like you only use 3% of your brain or 5%, you know, it was kind of this like, you only use a small percentage of your brain. So you thought like, okay, well, I don't know. The rest of it is just keeping my heart pumping and all that automatic stuff happening, right? You're like, okay, well, whatever. It's crazy, I think, even going back 10 years, how significant information has come forward. And I said this again, like it's in podcasts, it's in the internet, it's in conversations that are happening because we have podcasts. And so I don't know like how much of it wasn't known, but it's like now regular people are talking about brain health and knowing what that means. I have a special, I think that brain health has been especially alarming or concerning, or me wanting, frankly, the biggest motivator that I have felt in changing my habits and in changing my, just a really crappy way that I was taking care of myself was this concept of brain health. Because my mom, I saw her as this extremely fit woman. She was very conscious of her health, exercised, she ate really good. She was very, very health conscious. Her mother was very, very health conscious. Both of them ultimately dealt with dementia and died in the rest home. And so this is part of what I was talking about in the very first episode when I was like, I just figured that this is my only option. And it's only been until recently that I've realized, okay, no, this isn't just something that happens to you. You actually get to be in control. And then I started getting curious, like, okay, what do you mean? Like, in control of what? Like, oh, you have to sleep. Oh, well, when am I going to sleep? You know, it's like, then it's like you're finding out what you've got to do and you're like, oh, that doesn't fit into my current lifestyle. I mean, I have to change. I hate that. But then I want to add like one more element to this. And, you know, probably if you have kids that have been in sports, if you have kids that have jumped on a trampoline or ridden bikes or that, you know, whatever, a concussion happens, a brain injury happens. And, you know, up until pretty recently, it was like, we don't really know how much damage that was. You know, yeah, you're getting headaches or, you know, like, what can I tell you about a concussion? You just need to rest your brain. And my son, Cory, and we've talked about him here, and I hope you'll forgive me for continuously going back, but Cory had a pogo stick accident when he was in 8th grade that happened 2 years before he passed away from suicide. What happened is that he had this pogo stick, and this wasn't a normal pogo stick. This is a kind of pogo stick. We got it, like we lived in China. And so we kind of like would regularly buy weird stuff that they that you can only get in China, and for very good and important reasons it doesn't come here. But this is a pogo stick that you actually filled with compressed air. And so the kids could literally jump over a car with this pogo stick. You could jump over like the fence. It was
wow. That's insane.
No, crazy pogo sticks. I have photos, I have videos of my kids out there on these insane pogo sticks. And not everybody could do it, but my kids, of course, like crazy kids. And me, you know, like I didn't want to be that freak out mom. You know, I'm like, yeah, have fun. Just don't show me, or, you know, whatever. Anyway, he came down on the back of his head. He did not have a helmet on. And he suffered what I would later learn was a traumatic brain injury. At that point, it was a concussion. He was a CrossFitter at the age of 14. He was really, really into CrossFit. And in fact, he was so into CrossFit and rugby and all of his sports that he would, I mean, we live in Utah. We live at 4,000 feet, and he would wear an elevation mask and go out for a run. Like, this is the kind of kid he was. And he was so excited because he could do a muscle up before his older brother and before Eric. Well, I mean, I don't think Eric ever got it. I never got a muscle up, but this kid could do a muscle up at age 14. And he loved this competing, and he loved rugby, and he was a pretty aggressive kid. Anyway, he had to come out of all sports for the summer because of this head injury. And then going back into school, back into 9th grade, he wasn't performing. And I was mad. My kids get a, you know, like, you're not going to do anything if you can't get, and he could not, like, all of a sudden the grades were tanking, and I was like, are you just goofing off? Like, what is your problem? This is not acceptable. And I was really mad at him. I didn't know. I didn't know that he had a traumatic brain injury. I didn't know how to take it seriously. And it started affecting his self-esteem. You noticed some changes in his personality, but it was being blamed on puberty, which made sense because that was happening as well. And by the time I kind of switched teams and started to be an advocate, you know, try to be on his team instead of mad at him all the time, like, there was some depression, some anxiety, some aggression. And anyway, when we were in the hospital after Cory had taken his life, and he was being kept alive on machines, because we had decided that he would be a donor, and almost everything was going to be donated. And so we're sitting there with the team that goes over his history to figure out, you know, what the status is. And they're going through all of his health records that they have gathered from everywhere, health records that I didn't keep or really even have. And they said, what happened with this traumatic brain injury 2 years ago? And I was like, traumatic brain injury? Well, yeah, right here you had this, and we can see the scans here, and we can see this was a traumatic brain injury. And it was that moment that I could reverse everything and realize how significant this injury was. I think the biggest thing that I wish was that I could go back in time and tell him that he had a brain injury, that he wasn't stupid, and that he wasn't helpless, and that I wish I could go back and tell him that there was things that we could do to rebuild his brain and to help him build up that neuroplasticity that we know about now, that we talk about now. But we weren't talking about it then. Back then it was like, oh, if you got a brain injury, part of your brain's dead. You know, like I just didn't know. And so fast forward just a year ago when my daughter was involved in this golf cart accident, and I started seeing these signs. And I knew that we didn't know how bad of a concussion. I mean, her face was ripped off and her nose was broken. And so clearly there would be a brain injury, right? But it wasn't until she started trying to dance again and started trying to go back to school, and it wasn't the same. And her mental health was not the same. And I was like, I don't care what it costs. I don't care what we have to do, where we have to go. We're going to do whatever we have to do to get her brain, get her confidence back in her brain. Our brain is so essential, so important. And if there's anything that I could do, like even in elementaries, in schools, is take some time to really teach the kids how valuable and precious their brains are. And so you guys are stuck with me. If you don't listen to anything else, please listen to the things that we talk about, because your brain it's not too late. You haven't passed your prime. Concerns that you may have about your memory and your cognition and being able, like we talk about brain fog. And when my mom, like what we really started knowing when my mom started to get sick, and she was diagnosed with this form of dementia that's called primary progressive aphasia. It attacks the communication part of your brain. And so she started losing her words. And so you know the game that's called taboo, where you don't say the word, but everybody around is guessing the word. And that was life. Like we were always trying to find her words. And so the minute I can't think of a word, I'm like, okay, great. That's it. Pack my stuff, because I have dementia, you know, like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't think like that. The fact is that our brains can be nurtured and recover. There's so much that we know now that we can do to build our brain up. But yes, right now, as your hormones are tanking and as there's changes going on in your body, you better believe that you feel crazy and you can't find your words and you can't always think, and you walk into a room and you can't remember why you're there. And you're thinking, this has been going on since I had my first baby. Guess what? Somebody draw a graph of what happens to your hormones. Like when, you know, of course it has been happening, because the hormones are so active in our brains. And I don't even know what that even means as I say that. Like I don't have to know all of the details to know that women especially are susceptible to changes that happen in our brain that can make us feel cranky and moody. It can make us feel like we don't matter. It can make us feel like we're not important. We can feel a little short-circuited. And so it becomes really essential to ask yourselves, okay, what am I doing to support my brain? I know I'm not crazy. So I just want you to, in fact, maybe if you need to put a little Post-it note like on your mirror that says you're not crazy, just in case you need that, like reminder, you're not crazy. And so that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the reality of the stuff, of remembering, of brain fog, of this feeling not like yourself. And we're going to talk about the very, very real reasons and the very, very accessible things that we can do to support our brain, right? Is that, you guys on board? You guys going to be specialists? Okay. All right. Where do we want to even start? I think, what if we start about talking about hormonal changes and how the hormone affects our brains?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can. If that's where you want to go, we can talk about hormones.
Where do you want to start?
I mean, hormone, yeah, we can talk about, obviously when you're estrogen, your different hormones are off, you know, you're going to have, your brain function is going to be altered. But I go back even further. I always, like I said, I go to root cause, right? So let's go back to root cause. Well, what creates our hormones? Once again, cholesterol. Our brain is made up, I think, is like 25% of our brain.
Now, he just said that really casually, so let's just state that a little bit more clear, because I didn't know this at all. This is like a billboard on the freeway. I never knew this. Did you know this?
You don't hear a lot about this, so I think this is fantastic.
Yeah. The majority of, I think, like 80% of the hormone production, it starts with cholesterol. In order to create estrogen, you have to have cholesterol. And
and cholesterol has been a little bit probably demonized. Like, if you've got high, you don't want to have cholesterol.
It has, yeah.
Bad.
Well, and let's say back up even further than that. Like, look at what's happened. Think about growing up in the 70s and 80s and how many people you knew that had dementia. I can't think. I think I had one friend that maybe had like a crazy uncle. Yeah. No, but I'm saying, like, but how many?
You didn't hear about it. Yeah.
It was because you didn't hear about it because not many people had it.
Right.
It wasn't very common. And you come into the 90s and now here we are, dementia and Alzheimer's has skyrocketed. And what was the major shift that happened? In the late 80s, there was a study done at Harvard by these two Harvard scientists that now it's come out here just in the last number of years. It's come out.
This is disturbing. This is very disturbing because
so
just be prepared to be disturbed.
This is going to rewire your way of thinking and way we've been taught. We've been taught that fat is bad. Well, these two Harvard, it all stemmed from this study at Harvard by these two scientists who basically came out and did this study said fat is bad. And then
they were talking about Crisco.
They were talking about fat. They were talking about meat. They were talking about all this stuff, right?
Fat.
Eggs, because it was, egg whites are good and then they're not good. And it's like they've gone back and forth with that. But it all stemmed from this study back in the late 80s when these two scientists released a study basically saying fat is bad. It's come out in just the last few years, last number of years, that was a completely bogus study. Not only was it a bogus study, they were paid by the food industry to release a study, the sugar industry. And so then we've been on this low fat, no fat, 2%, skim, 1%, all these things for the last however many years.
You know how like on social media, it'll show like a shoe that was popular in 1980 and they'll say, if you had this pair of shoes, you should like go get a mammogram. It's like that kind of thing. Like, if you had this, you probably need to get your back checked or, something like that. It's like you're this old, many years old. But as a 53-year-old woman, I can remember so vividly, so clearly when the anti-fat period hit. And Golden Spoon yogurt came and had fat-free yogurt. And that was it. Like, we were allowed to now have treats because it was fat-free. Like my mom was on the fat-free train, on the express train.
Because she was following the science.
Yes.
So she was doing what she thought was healthy because that's what we were told was healthy. And come to find out, it's extremely unhealthy. Matter of fact, whenever I talk to anybody about low fat, no fat, anybody that's trying to lose weight, the first thing I tell them is do not eat anything that says low fat, no fat, diet, fat free, skim, 1%, 2%. I mean, here's a mind blower. 2% milk. This was released. Was this 2014?
Oh no, everybody! I drink 2% milk. Just
drink whole milk. If you're gonna drink milk, drink whole milk, and I'm gonna tell you why. This is what they do to 2% milk. This was actually, I hate to even say this. This was actually another Harvard study, I think, from 2014. Where they came.
Harvard is going to come after us.
They can do it. Well, this is a good study.
Okay.
Because when they studied 2% milk, what they found is they add sugar to 2% milk. Because you take the fat away, you take away the taste, so they got to add taste back in, they put sugar in. That's why anything that is low fat, no fat, diet, anything, either has added sugar or has an artificial sugar, which is even worse. So that whole craze of no fat has been going on up until just recently. I would say just, honestly, maybe since, it seems like everything has kind of like come out since COVID because everybody was at home stuck.
Yeah.
So everybody's been like reading more and actually reading the research that's been out there for a little while. And so Which is actually, like I said, this is the silver lining. People are becoming more educated and taking their health into their own hands, as opposed to just listening to people who they think know everything, which oftentimes don't. But coming back to that, so cholesterol, we get eating good fats. And I'll just share a story. I just came back actually this weekend. Me and my wife flew down to LA to watch my son play in his last tournament, rugby. He's down there with a team training. He's currently right now in the pathway trying to make the U.S. Olympic team. And in the championship game.
That would just be so awesome. I'm just such a fan. I haven't seen him play, but I'm such a fan of him already.
I'll show you some clips. He's pretty amazing, but I'm bragging on my son, Tiave. But in the second half of the game, the breakaway, and guy catches him by his fingertips.
So he's back?
He's a scrum half, but he's a back. He was running back in high school. He's really fast.
Okay.
And caught his jersey by his fingertips, and as he's pulling him to try and pull him down, the other guys came, and it just kind of came across. I didn't see the mechanism how it happened. He just went down and was laying flat on his back, and little T-Rex arms, knocked out.
Oh.
And his coach, who runs this organization, is a former Olympic 7s and 15s player, which is pretty impressive because it's hard to make the Olympic team, and then to be able to play on both the 7s and the 15s, that just tells you you're a pretty great player. And so we were talking afterwards, and one of the things that he was saying to me is like, hey, the first thing they do at the Olympic Training Center when anybody has a concussion is you need to get it, he needs to eat fat. We need to get him on omegas. He needs to be eating fish, getting that fat.
This is crazy because I've never heard.
Yeah.
In all of my little concussion forays, I've not heard that.
Yeah, very first
that kind of excites me.
Which makes sense because you think about your brain, and then all of your nerves. All of your nerves are covered in this thing called myelin sheath. It's this white sheath. Same with your brain. That is 100% cholesterol. So if you actually have a really low cholesterol diet, not only can you have decreased brain function, you can have decreased just movement. You can start to not move as well. You can have it can affect the firing of your neurons. But very first thing I said, we need to get him on omegas and have him eating fish. He needs to get a high fat diet. That's when he needs to go right away, because that's going to be the first thing that's going to help repair that brain. That brain is covered in cholesterol.
So interesting.
And so without cholesterol, you can't make hormones. So if you're having brain issues and you show your hormones are out of whack, I guarantee you, your cholesterol is probably going to show some things as well. Definitely going to show. Well, it's probably going to show high because you're dealing with inflammation. When you have high inflammation, usually you're going to have high cholesterol because your cholesterol is your repairer. So when you get inflammation, it's damaging, and the cholesterol is coming in trying to repair. Is
this a thing where you've got good cholesterol and bad cholesterol?
No,
because
no such thing. That's a fallacy. That's what we've been told. Good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. It's not. The only way cholesterol can really be bad is your LDL cholesterol that people talk about, bad cholesterol. It is going in your arteries, for example, when you have inflammation.
Okay, so I was just going to say, what about
this is how it can become
makes
bad.
Your arteries close off?
That's not from cholesterol.
Yeah. Once again, well, I feel
but we've been taught that.
Yeah.
But this is really the mechanism of how it happens. So you have inflammation or oxidative stress, and it's damaging your arteries. So cholesterol comes in and is trying to repair. It's like the pot. It's filling potholes, right? It's coming in and trying to repair and trying to lay down and repair the arteries. Now, if you have too much oxidative stress for long periods of time, and your cholesterol is constantly, that mixture of oxidative stress and cholesterol and also calcium stuff, can cause things to harden. But it's not because of the cholesterol. The cholesterol is actually there to try to help repair. We've been taught totally different.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, which makes sense for me, as my cholesterol is always ran hot. It's always been high. And it's probably because I've had autoimmune for I don't know how long. And that when you talked about the inflammation, it makes complete sense.
Yeah. And then I like to back that up even further. Well, it's so how do we even make cholesterol? Well, the majority of your cholesterol is made in the liver. The liver makes your cholesterol. So now we need to go back so when I'm looking at anybody with all these things, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at their liver health to make sure that their liver is functioning properly, because that's a very important organ. Obviously, it does a lot of things. We'll have a whole episode on the liver, but so the liver makes cholesterol. So you got to make sure you have good liver function.
So what I guess I thought, I'm so embarrassed to say these things that I thought, like if you're eating like the egg yolk, if you're eating things that are fat, that becomes the cholesterol. What do you mean when you say the liver makes cholesterol?
When you eat good fats, so when you're having like a high fat diet, good fats, your body's able to take from those fats and to be able to create cholesterol from that. Okay. So there's, and this is going to
so you can, and you can eat bad fat and good fat.
Correct.
Okay. So you could eat, like you were saying, vegetable oil.
I make it really simple. If it's fat that comes from food that grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, you're good to go. If it's fat that comes out of a packaged bottle,
you need to say it slower because our brains are not as myelinated as you clearly.
Like she's using the good words now. Yeah. So it's simple like this.
If the fat comes from...
If it grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, you're good to go. Meaning real food. So fat from food, like actual whole foods, good. Okay. Fat that comes from a bottle, package, or can, bad.
Okay.
Potato chips, you're going to have those unsaturated fats. You're going to have these bad fats, right? So, there was this whole thing for a while about saturated fats are bad. That's the whole egg yolk thing. The ironic thing is the egg yolk is one of the most nutritious things you can put in your body, period, full stop, right there, done. Egg yolks are so nutritious, not just for cholesterol, but so many vitamins and nutrients that are found in that. Very, very good. But we've been taught eggs bad, eggs good. Eggs good if only the whites. And it's just all junk science. And a lot of this stuff has been funded by companies that sell you ultra processed foods. Mm-hmm. And this will kind of, for those of you, I'm sorry if this is you, but this is the truth. If you're vegan and you don't take any kind of supplementation, you're just straight vegan, you will die. Because you cannot get all the essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients you need to function from eating just a plant diet. Now, if you are, say, just carnivore, I'm not saying go carnivore, but I'm saying if you're just carnivore, you will thrive because you will get every essential vitamin, mineral, and nutrient that your body needs. And it's just rewiring how we've been taught. We've been taught fat is bad, and it's not bad. Certain fats are bad. Fats that are from ultra-processed foods, bad. Stay away from fats from oils that are like seed oils, vegetable oils, and most people, canola oil, you have these different oils at home. Bad, horrible. If there's one thing you can do to help with your brain health today is go home, and if you have any oil in your house that's not olive oil, coconut oil, I think even avocado oil, anything other than that, throw it in the trash, get rid of it. And you even asked this question the other day, and I've had other people, well, then what do you cook brownies with? Olive oil, honestly, or some people do coconut oil. You know,
I was kind of scared to ask him because I'm not going to stop eating I don't think we can expect me to stop eating brownies completely.
No, but if you, at least you can, like I said, good, better, best with nutrition. You know,
right?
Good is okay. You're having the brownies, but you're doing it without vegetable oils, right? These are really harmful oils. And then I said, oils,
because he's like, you got to get rid of the seed oil, and I said, is vegetable oil a seed? Because why is it called this? Why do they call it seed oils?
Well, there's different. You have vegetable oils, you have seed oils. You have stuff that comes from different types of things. Like I think cottonseed.
It helped me when he just said, "Look, focus on olive oil," which I actually do.
The easy one is olive oil and coconut oil. If you have those two oils, you should be able to cook and bake with those two oils. There's a lot of people that actually you'll see these big health influencers that, like extremely brilliant guys. And they'll tell you flat out, they do like a tablespoon of just straight olive oil daily.
Those psychopaths, they're taking
they're next
olive
level.
oil and then they're drinking it down with like an apple cider vinegar chaser or something.
Just drop some essential oils in it, throw some lemon in it.
Okay, I'm probably not to that. Like my Gore-Tex is really against that right now. But
just switch the oils that you have in your home.
You also said that butter.
Butter, yeah. And if you're cooking, if you're using butter, use butter. Use real butter, grass-fed butter. That is...
You said
Kerrygold.
Kerrygold. Can it be salted?
Yeah.
That's We'll have a whole salt episode. That's another thing. Salt is not bad. The very first thing when they say, oh, it's bad for your heart, it's not. The latest research has come out. Salt is not the culprit of heart disease. It's sugar. Sugar is the culprit of heart disease. They've demonized fat and salt, but when you're having a heart attack, what's the very first thing the ambulance does? They shove saline into you immediately. And it's like, I don't know how many milligrams or grams it is, a lot though, or milliliters. It's a lot. And so they're shoving salt water in you like immediately. It's not salt, but coming back, but yeah, just eat butter. Margarine is one of the worst things you can possibly put in your body. It's absolutely horrible. Matter of fact, I think they originally were making margarine.
What about, I can't believe it's not butter.
No, anything that does is not real butter, it's not good. Once again, this is the simple way to know. Is what I'm eating coming from something that grew on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, or is it made in a building? It's as simple as that. And so you can answer that question, then you're pretty... Health and nutrition is really not that hard when you think about it that way.
I hate it when people say that. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Well, you just eat real food. Eat real food.
Eat real food.
And, 80-20. I'm an 80-20 guy. You're not going to be perfect. Because it's funny, because I would go to these mind you, being a thyroid doctor, I specialize in thyroid, a lot of patients, come in and they're gluten-free and dairy-free and they're super restrictive. And I'm not super, but then I'd work with a lot of my colleagues. I'd go to these seminars and we're all in the same space, functional medicine, and we'd go out to lunch and I'd always be the one, I know they're going to like judge me for what I get. But I'm like, hey, I like food, but I'm ordering real food at a real restaurant, not fast food, right? We're at a nice restaurant. I order real food and, oh, does that have gluten? Does that have dairy? I'm like, oh my gosh, like, don't judge me because I know here at like 7, 8 o'clock, you guys are all going to be getting drunk. So don't judge me for what I eat. But anyways, 80-20 rule, if you can eat healthy 80% of the time, eat whole foods 80% of the time. If you eat 20% of the time, you have to go grab. So it's like, whatever. Your body is made to filter stuff out. The thing is here in the US especially, our bodies are just used to the opposite. It's trying to filter 80% crap. Right. And while we eat 20% healthy, and the body can't keep up with that. That's way too much. It can't handle it. And so it causes all these different things, especially the big one is inflammation, and inflammation. I tell people, I used to be of the thought that inflammation is the cause of all disease, like early on in my career. And then I realized, well, no, organ dysfunction is the cause of all disease. And chronic organ function leads to inflammation, and chronic inflammation then leads to disease. And so, but yeah, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to know, hey, it's really simple. Eat real food.
Well, I love your fine dining plate analogy too, because that's so simple. When you think about going out to a nice restaurant, like how do they typically prepare the plate? You've got your portion of protein, you've got a good veggie steamed. So
you're not really talking about like Cheesecake Factory.
No. and then how much starch is there? Like usually it's a smaller portion.
And it's a healthy starch. So it's like, half your plate is a good vegetable, then a quarter of your plate is a healthy meat, healthy protein with it. And then you have, the healthy starch, which is, we're the opposite. Or carb, it's starch. We're the opposite. We're like 3/4 of the plate is carb. And then, let's throw some chicken on this bowl of pasta, and now that's somehow healthy. So it's really, that's what I tell my patients. I'm like, you want to eat healthy? This is how you eat healthy. Think about when you go to a really nice, like say, steak or seafood restaurant, and you're paying $60 for a plate. What does that plate look like? I'm like, and then they go, oh yeah. I'm like, that's healthy. So make your plate look like that. It doesn't have to cost $60. And it won't. But I'm like, if your plate looks like that, you're eating healthy. And this is what they all say to me. Oh, I'd love to eat like that. That's what I say. Right. And then it doesn't become like I'm taking something away from them. I'm just educating. Health is not difficult. It's just understanding these simple things. But when you eat that way, then your body is able to create the cholesterol that it needs, which in turn then can help to create the hormones that you need. And that cholesterol is huge, and that good fats, those are huge for brain health. And not just brain health, but your entire central nervous system, all your nerves.
So it's interesting because I think we hear a lot that... I think the buzzword is that as your estrogen declines, then that's where your brain function declines. But it's interesting that to have you take it one step back and say, if you're cholesterol is not functioning, then you can't even support whatever estrogen you may be able to make. Now, if you aren't making any estrogen because you are in menopause, or if you've been cleaned out in the same way that I have, then it would be necessary to have some hormone replacement happening because the cholesterol can't make estrogen from nothing.
Well, when you're going through menopause, you're not completely depleted of estrogen. Your body's still making it.
Right.
And so what you can do is if you change your diet and you go to a more heavy fat protein diet, your body will be able to amp up the estrogen, and you may be able to get through, some women may be able to get through menopause just by changing their diet and having, more elevated hormones the way they need to. There are instances where you can't, and then, hormone therapy it comes into play, bioidentical hormones. And
then if you're not, if you're not having hormone replacement, then it's even more essential to be eating super optimized.
Exactly. Yeah. Because not everybody wants to go and get hormone therapy, which I understand that everybody has their own things that they look at. But if you're one that doesn't, I really don't want to go in and get hormone therapy. I really don't want to do that. It's like, okay, well, there's other things you can do to try to help get through menopause in a way healthier way. And that is changing your diet. Diet is the huge part right there. And it's really increasing your healthy fats. They said they did a study with kids that they gave, it was like 1 egg a day. Have you seen this study? 1 egg a day is 18 points higher in their IQ.
Wow.
You can get a better IQ, huh?
Yeah. But think about it. Like, think about it. Is it really IQ, or is it really more you have better brain
Cognitive
function?
right.
Clarity. And that's probably what it is. You just have your brain's functioning better because it has what it needs. Right.
Okay. All right. So the first thing that you can do to support your brain, no matter what, and you said this thing, and I just have to stop for 1 second. Because he said, to help you get through menopause. You don't get through it, right? Because
eventually you do.
Because once you're in menopause, you still have to get through your life, right? And so it's not like
you
don't get through it. You're in menopause for the rest of your
Well, you go through menopause. It's a stage where your body's changing. It's basically think about reverse puberty. You're not in puberty forever. You're through it, and you get through it. And then most women at that point, a lot of women will have
stabilize.
Well, yeah, it'll be you're done. You're not going through all the hot flashes and going through all the highs and lows, and then it stabilizes. But then usually most women, their hormones are not the same as what they were when they were younger prior. Just like a male, as they call it andropause. They get to that point, your testosterone levels are not at the level that they were. Now, if I were to go get testosterone therapy and get my testosterone up, then could I feel like I'm young again? Absolutely, you do. You have more energy. When you work out, you see gains better, stuff like that. Same with women. It's going to be the same thing. So, but for those that don't, you can go when you get through menopause. Yes, your hormones are going to be definitely different than prior. But you can affect that with diet as well. A good healthy diet can help a lot of that. In some cases, with some women, that's all they need. They don't need hormone therapy. They can actually control it completely with diet. Others, depending, because there's a lot of women now, if they don't have a full hysterectomy, they have a partial hysterectomy.
Right, and they still have their ovaries, and they're still creating some.
They're still creating some, and depending, and some may have one ovary. It just depends. It's a spectrum. So I'm not saying hard fast that everybody should do this or everybody should do this. I'm just saying you have options, and two of the options are, you can go and get hormone therapy, but whether you do that or not, I would still highly recommend changing your diet into a more healthy fat diet, because that will be definitely beneficial, and you'll feel the difference. You will feel the difference in how you feel.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of that what fuels our brain is healthy fats. Talk about insulin and blood sugar and all of this stuff? Because we know that the whole spiking blood sugar situation isn't optimized, or if you're having like insulin go up and down, and that it can affect the way your brain is functioning. Right.
A lot of that is once again diet, and another big impact on that insulin is fight or flight. Actually, increased cortisol levels will definitely affect your insulin levels as well. I did want to say about one study, just for the cholesterol part. There is a study out of Sweden. You can just Google cholesterol study out of Sweden, where they showed that those that had cholesterol under 200 for a long period of time, or actually they did this thing of these older people that were like in their 80s, and I think it was like 69 and above or something like that. I can't remember the exact age, but they showed in this study of people that those that had cholesterol below 200 had a higher rate of all-cause mortality. Like they had a higher rate of mortality earlier than those that had above 200. Really, like the sweet spot was like 219 to 250.
What has been considered elevated?
Well, a lot of docs want to get you under 200.
Yeah.
They want to get you 200. And this study was like, in the study, this specific study said the sweet spot was 219 to like 249 or 250. But it wasn't just that. You had a higher, basically you had a shorter lifespan is basically what it is. Shorter lifespan if you had below 200. And then the all-cause mortality, it was like just all disease across the board. If you had lower cholesterol, you had a higher chance of dying from anything. So it's kind of goes contrary to everything we've been taught, but more and more, I'm not the only one talking about this. I'm not even the third person talking about this. There's a lot of people, a lot of brilliant doctors, a lot of big influencer doctors and stuff like that are talking about this. And they've been bringing this up quite a bit about it's shifting now, where people are like, no, the science is not there. The science is that cholesterol is not bad. That's something we have to rewire. But it's been so embedded in us that, what is my cholesterol levels? What's this? It's like, I don't really care what your cholesterol levels are. What are your triglycerides? That's what I care about. What is your inflammation markers? What's your hemoglobin A1C? Check for blood sugar. And those are really the important things to look for.
Chelsi, you talked about how when you got done with your first show and you were kind of coming off and experiencing a little bit of crash, and that was kind of when you were realizing something was really wrong. You really talked a lot about your brain not functioning.
Yeah, brain fog was like, I felt like I was just like in a haze walking around. It was really hard to make decisions, and I was still in fight or flight, in a chaotic state. And, obviously bodybuilding is a pretty extreme sport. Like we took our fats real low. And so hearing you talk about, how important they are, like for sure, like all my hormones had tanked. All of that was just,
How was your mood during that time?
I was just numbed out. Like I really was non-reactive, non-responsive. And because I just had low energy. I just was kind of a zombie is how I felt. So and in my nutrition certifications, we've learned about, healthy fats and how important they are for hormones, but it didn't go into the cholesterol and how cholesterol is what makes the hormones. But I think we hear a lot about, like we're hearing type 3 diabetes, right?
Like the Alzheimer's is considered type 3 diabetes, which is why I was asking about the insulin situation.
Yeah. So I'm really curious about that because I watched my father-in-law die from dementia. And, in my mind, he was a healthy guy. A farmer. He was out moving pipe every day. Like he pretty much ate whole foods. His sleep probably was terrible because he was up driving the tractor and stuff. But for the most part, I didn't feel like he was an extremely unhealthy, person. I didn't see him eating a ton of sweets or anything like that. So to watch him, suffer and experience dementia, and then I hear my husband, saying things like he's already talking about brain fog and stuff. Like I'm like Heidi's, I'm like, oh no, he's got dementia. It's like it's all over. And so I would love for you to speak and educate about just that, like insulin, and why are they saying that it's type 3 diabetes with dementia?
Yeah, it's sugar. Sugar is very inflammatory. It's super inflammatory. Obviously our brain needs sugar to function as well. I mean, it does use that as fuel, but it's just highly, I mean, just to break it down super simple, it's because it's very inflammatory. And so imagine having high blood sugar levels for a long period of time. You can imagine what that does to your insulin. I mean, your peaks and valleys are crazy. But with that blood sugar as well, you have this chronic blood sugar levels for years and years and years. You also have chronic inflammation. And then now where you think that inflammation is going as well to the brain. And so when it gets to the brain, I mean, that affects other things as well. It'll affect, and even blood sugar can affect, and insulin can affect your liver function. And a lot of this comes back to the gut too, and even how we deal with that, our microbiome. And microbiome is huge. We could do a whole episode on microbiome. But I mean, just from a simplistic standpoint, sugar is extremely inflammatory. Anything like you think about these heart diseases, itis, which is, inflammation. And as we know, heart disease sugar is a big cause of heart disease. It's very, very inflammatory. And our diets, what is it, like we eat 2 pounds of sugar a year or something like that? Is it a year? Is that what it is? It's something. It's a lot.
I bet I'm doing more than that.
well,
that's a 5-pound bag over here.
Right. But so, I mean, we consume so much sugar because of ultra processed foods. And it's foods here, they're not the same. Most of the food we have here is totally banned in Europe. Mm-hmm. Our dairy's banned in Europe. Our chicken is banned in Europe. Most of the ultra processed foods are banned over there. They can't. Here's an example. My sister, who is really tried to, because, my mom struggled with weight, so all my sisters are more hypersensitive to, wanting to make sure that, that they can maintain a good weight. And the oldest of the girls, which is just below me, she's works out, she eats really good, and she has to, because if she doesn't, then she'll gain weight pretty easily. So she eats perfectly, and she eats gluten-free and dairy-free. And I mean, like, she's like super hardcore. They were in Spain. Actually, I think they moved back in a week. They've been there for the last year. And like 2 weeks in, she's like, oh my gosh, I can eat the bread and I don't just have a reaction, because she also has thyroid issues. I can have cheese here. Haven't been able to have cheese and bread. It's totally different, completely different food over there. And in a lot of our foods here, just everything, I'm down to 2% milk has sugar in it. Mm-hmm, you don't expect 2% milk to have sugar in it. You know what I mean? You don't expect a lot of these things to have sugar. And then you have the artificial sugars, which are 10 times worse. And they're in anything that says diet, it's artificial sugar.
And maybe touch on that. What do the artificial sugars do? Yeah. And why are they so?
So you have the artificial sugars, and then you have the high fructose corn syrup, which is in a lot of our stuff, all of our sodas here. Like you see a lot of the real Pepsi now, mm-hmm. The difference between that and the other Pepsi is this has high fructose corn syrup, this has real sugar. I'm not saying they're both not great to drink, but if you're choosing one, choose the one with real sugar. What high fructose corn syrup and these artificial sugars do, they weren't created by food, like chefs. They were created by scientists. Mm. And what they do chemically, when you eat, your stomach starts to extend, right? It starts to get bigger. And when it gets to a certain point, you're full, your body releases a hormone called leptin to let your brain know, hey, you're full, stop eating. Those artificial sugars shut that leptin pathway off, so you consume more.
Crazy.
Whether it's deliberate or not, I don't know. Seems a little deliberate to me. Yeah. All the people trying to lose weight are eating foods that never shut off that hunger pathway. Yeah.
Which makes sense, because when you're binging, typically it's not on carrots.
And it's not on so steak, right?
Yeah. So the 5-pound bag of chocolate covered cinnamon bears just shut that signal right off, and I just kept eating. So yeah, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. So so I'm not saying sugar's bad. Don't eat everything sugar free. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you are eating something that has sugar in it, make sure it's real sugar if you can. Best you can, because most of the stuff I mean, look at the back of the package. Here's the other thing. The back of the package, if you can't pronounce the ingredient, you shouldn't probably eat it.
Okay. And if you can't even read it because you don't have your glasses on, then you're fine. Yeah. I mean, so I think that here's what's interesting. As we think about our general status, and if we want our brain to function, and I think the minute that we start, I don't know, for me, the minute I start not being able to place a word, or I find that I can't focus, or I find that I'm starting to, it's really the word placing that makes me scared. You know, I don't think we have to assume the worst, like we're not already having dementia and Alzheimer's. I think my previous belief system, and maybe you could speak to this for a second as well, is that because I have a history of dementia and Alzheimer's in my family. And I've already mentioned that my whole family tree rests home, right? And so I just really assumed that it was just a matter of time, and that it was probably going to be sooner for me than later because I'm so naughty. And now I take care of myself. So could you just talk for a second about, like, just because your mom had dementia, just because someone in your family has had dementia, you actually can drive the car. You are in control. There are things that you can do.
Yeah, 100%. So there's this, and once again, it's also an easy out for us sometimes to, and not in the dementia, just in general with genetic things. Oh, it's genetic. Oh, it's genetic. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you see, I used the example before, you go into a Walmart and you see a 10-year-old kid who's obese, not fluffy, obese, right? Yeah. It's not genetic. It's a diet. One of the genetic part is the diet that he's being fed, which chances are the mom is cooking the same kinds of foods that she grew up eating at home. And his mom is overweight and his grandmother's overweight, and it's the food. And so there is a genetic
family culture issues that can play into that.
Correct. Now there is, you know, you get into like epigenetics. Yes, you can have, hey, there's this genetic marker that there's dementia in your family line, right? But it's like a light switch. You can turn it on or off, and you can turn on or off that DNA marker or markers based on diet and lifestyle. So just because like your mother had dementia or a form of it doesn't mean that you will. And just by diet and lifestyle, you can turn that light switch off, so those markers aren't really relevant to you at that point. Does that make sense?
And here's what's also interesting is that I can remember my grandma, who was a mother of 8, and was very concerned about her health. And they always had a big, big vegetable garden. She was a big believer and a big proselyter of healthy food. But she was on cholesterol medication always. And she was so frustrated she needed to be on cholesterol medication. I can remember this about her. Right now, it's all kind of making sense because I'm sure my mom was the oldest daughter.
Well, and also probably had a very low-fat diet.
Very low-fat diet. Well, I mean, at that point, I don't think.
Because that was the time.
She wasn't eating ice cream. She wasn't. Yeah. She wasn't eating fats, but I don't think that she was like really into process. You know, she wasn't having like all this processed food. I think she was pretty
just avoiding
healthy.
Fats.
Who knows why she? Yeah, she was diagnosed with high cholesterol, and that was like the bane of her existence. She was really frustrated about it, so she was on medication for cholesterol. My mom, oldest daughter, watching her mom struggle with high cholesterol and saying, that's not going to be me. Just like I am saying, that's not going to be me, right? And my mom swung very, very deeply into the no-fat situation. And And so as we talk about this, like the connection with cholesterol and the understanding we have now about how important fats were, that wasn't a conversation that was happening. And now, you know, I can joke that all I want about Crisco and my cookies, and I can.
Now you can use real butter.
You know, I'm just thankful for the information. I'm thankful for what my grandma went through, and for what my mom went through. And I'm not going to waste what I've learned from them, and they wouldn't want me to. You know, and so to be in the situation where we are blessed, you know, we can be mad. We can be mad about what our food supply is in this country. We can be mad about the phones and how they're overtaken. And then we can be mad about these. I mean, not mad, but you know, we can kind of talk about these things that are so different than they were back in the day, right? But I think it's really important to say, like, okay, we have this information. We know better, and so we can do better. And take the best of it and decide I get to be in control of this, and I don't have to just use that as my
like your destiny.
My destiny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and one thing we haven't really touched on, I know we were probably talk about, but the microbiome of the gut health, your gut health is huge.
This starts to overwhelm me. But
it's huge for your brain. Well, like we said before, your neurotransmitters a good portion of your neurotransmitters are created in the gut.
I mean, I have heard this whole, like, the gut is your second brain.
Yeah. Well, it's your second brain for a different reason.
Okay. Never mind. Forget that I said that. Well, you see why I'm overwhelmed.
It talks to it. So yeah, they interact.
I use the terminology second brain because it controls so many processes in the body. So the brain controls everything, and the gut is like your number two of what it controls. Like I said, immune system, inflammation, hormone conversion, dopamine, serotonin. It does so many different things. That's why it's like the second brain. It's like our second switchboard. So it's so important to have good gut health. Not only with good gut health, but then also if you have good gut health, then you're able to actually absorb, breaking down, but you're able to absorb vitamins, nutrients, fats in the gut, and you're able to do it in a healthy way. But also it controls blood sugar as well, which is a big thing. So without a healthy gut, I mean, really that's the first, like, if you're going to work on one thing, what's one thing internally I should work on outside of my diet? You know, what's one thing I should work on is making sure you have a healthy gut, because that right there as well, if you don't have a healthy gut, well, you're not going to be able to absorb the fats as well. You know, you're not going to be able to and then you also detox through the gut, you know, autoimmunity.
And we're going to come back to the gut health in a really clear way. So don't
that's a whole episode just on its own, is gut health. But, you know, and so a lot of these things, so like when cholesterol also helps with bile, and bile is what it basically holds the toxins that come through, that dump into your intestines, that then flush out of your body. So you have so many things that you can work on, but really the one thing, if you're working on something like, hey, what can I take, or what can I do to try to be healthy when it comes to brain health, aside from diet, eating healthy fats and decreasing sugar consumption, it's ensuring that you have a good, healthy microbiome. That is probably the number one thing you could do more than anything else.
Well, I think that I want to add, you know, I have kind of a favorite guy that I like to listen to talk about brain health, and his name is Dr. Amen. You know what I'm talking about? Daniel Amen. Yep. And he kind of talks about lifestyle choices that will help support. And he talks, like, I think it's interesting because whenever I have gone to Movara, which is this fitness resort, and Chelsi's gone with me, so she can vouch. But you go there and all of the foods are provided for you, right? And it's all, I mean, you're getting it's on a 2,000 calorie diet, and it is delicious, pretty food that is like perfectly balanced, and you don't have to think about it, right? Like, it's incredible. You're hiking every morning. You're up with the sun, so it hits your circadians, right?
Yep.
And so Eamon talks about this. He talks about nutrition. He talks about getting the sunlight in your eyes and going outside. He talks about how helpful it is for your brain to go outside. He talks about social interaction. And when, you're on your hikes or your walks or whatever, you're having these conversations. It's not like you're in clinch and ram, like those conversations. It's kind of these conversations where you're meeting new people and you're learning about them and you're forming connection. So connection is another thing that is really, really good. He talks about hydration and how important it is to drink water. And, I understand the water thing, and I always like to tell people that Diet Coke has 99% water. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like it's not that.
It also has aspartame.
Yes.
There's one thing I don't want to.
I get real busted for this.
I don't want to miss on brain health, because this is imperative as well. Mitochondrial function. Mitochondria is
powerhouse of
powerhouse cell. So I'll just explain it, just because everybody's heard that, but what does that mean? So you think about a campfire, right? You have the rocks make up, the little fire pit.
Okay.
And so the rocks are the cell wall. Okay. The logs that are in there are the mitochondria, and the fire that comes off is the ATP, the energy. We need energy to do everything. And so the more logs you put, or the more mitochondria in the cell, the more energy you create.
Okay.
And this is how important it is for brain health. Is you have somewhere estimated around 80 million neurons, which are brain cells.
Okay.
And each neuron contains around 2 million mitochondria.
2 million?
Mm-hmm. So mitochondrial function is very, very important. And so, me personally, for me, just because it is so important, I look to take like a mitochondrial supplement just for myself, just because I want to make sure that I get good mitochondrial function. And so, but yeah, mitochondria is extremely important as well for brain health and cognition.
Huh. What supplement is for mitochondria?
Oh, there's tons of products out there that are mitochondrial based. A lot of them are called Mito something.
Yeah.
A lot of companies have Mito. What do they have? doTERRA has something, don't they?
Yeah, Mito 2 Max.
Mito 2 Max. Another company has one called Mito ATP, Mito Max, so they're very easy to find a really good mitochondrial supplement. And if you're somebody who feels like you're having brain fog, or you're already kind of in thinking you're having some cognition issues, or just, man, I can't focus, that'd be a good one to get on pretty early out the gate. Find a really good mitochondrial product.
And so many things affect the brain.
They do. But if you wanted to boil it down to a few simple things, one is diet, eating, healthy fats. Exercise is also really good. That's one I left out. There's another study. I love all these little studies. So they did this, I think it was in a junior high. And they moved PE to first period. So the very first thing they did was PE, and they were moving.
I've heard this before.
Right. And afterwards, what they saw different. They saw a major increase in grades across the board for kids. They saw a decrease in fights, and they saw a decrease in just kids, not paying attention in class. And it was exercise, a good diet, not being on cholesterol med, no matter what your doctor says. I'm telling you, that is one of the most harmful drugs you can put in your body, other than these opiates that are horrific. But if I take the painkillers out of the equation, I would say one of the most harmful drugs you can take is a statin.
So if that's something that you're on, maybe get curious about it.
Yeah, get really curious. Go. Here's the thing. If you're on a statin drug, go look at the research. Go read the research and go learn about it. And before you get on any drug, for that matter, because I understand it, you're going in, you're talking to your doctor, and they're like, oh, your blood panel says this and this, and I need to put you on this, and I need to put you on that. I would be like, well, doc, okay, I want to give me a little time. I just want to go do some of my own research. Information is never bad.
Right.
And that's always a telltale. Like if anybody wants to fight against you going to educate yourself, you might need to work with somebody different. Like for me, I would love all of my patients to want to go research on their own. And a lot of times I'll give them nuggets just so they will go research that and not give them all the information, because I want them. Because if you go research it, then you're reading it and you're really seeing the real information. Now, once again, you're empowered with information.
Right, sure.
And so your belief from doing your own research is going to be so much higher than just listening to somebody on a podcast or listening to your doctor. And I'm not saying don't listen to your doctors. I'm just saying before you go on any kind of drug, go research it. What's in the drug? What are the side effects of the drug? You know, because there's a lot of side effects. I mean, here's one, antidepressant. You know what one of the big side effects of antidepressants is? Suicidal thoughts and homicidal tendencies. Right on the package insert. You know, so there's a time and a place for medication. I'm a big fan of you use medication to stabilize you, so you're not having you're not going to potentially have a heart attack or a stroke or some major medical event. And while you're stabilizing, you're changing your diet and your lifestyle and your nutrition so that you can then get off of whatever drug. My uncle is retired. He retired, gosh, a number of years ago, but he was a pharmacist for 40 years. Now, and at the end of his career, he was over like 1,000 pharmacies nationwide. And I love, he sends me research now. It's actually pretty awesome. Matter of fact, he sent me research about a product. He's like, hey, this ingredient, I'm not sure about this. I'm like, oh, better change that. But he will tell you this. He will tell you exactly this. All drugs have side effects that are as bad or worse than the condition you're treating. All of them. And I asked him, well, what? And he's in his 70s. Matter of fact, my daughter was out at nationals, for high school nationals in Wisconsin, and they live out there, so they got to come watch. It was kind of cute because my aunt, they're in their 70s, and my aunt, the night before, they'd never seen a rugby game. So they're like watching rugby, and they're looking up the rules.
It's so confusing too.
But it was the cutest thing because they show up and like, she's like, the night before was like looking at the rules and watching some stuff, and it was just so fun to have them come out. But you see them and they're in their mid 70s and they look like the way they move and they're super active and they're super healthy. You would think they were in their early 60s. Wow, that's awesome. And you ask him, how many drugs are you on? He's like, none. I'll never be on a drug. He's like, because all of this stuff is as a result of poor diet and lifestyle. You go on a drug because of poor diet and lifestyle. Now, there are certain things like you get a hysterectomy, guess what? If you don't want to feel like a crazy person, you're probably going to need to be on hormone therapy. If you get your thyroid removed, guess what? Like, you're removing an organ, it's no longer creating what it needs, then yeah, there's time and a place. You're going to need to be on thyroid medication, right? So there's time and a place, but I'm talking blood pressure medication, type 2 diabetes. I love those. Type 2 diabetes was my most favorite patients to come in. I'm like, oh, finally an easy case. Type 2 diabetes, 4 months, gone. Maybe even sooner. But I'd have patients come in with metabolic disease like hypertension, high cholesterol, what they're on all these meds, they're type 2 diabetes. And in 4 months with just changing diet and lifestyle, and this is all we do. I talked about the plate. That's it. Eat real food. This is what your plate should look like. And can you walk 30 minutes a day? Mm-hmm. And in 4 months, they're off all of their meds and all of their lab markers are normal.
Amazing.
So, which I think that should just feel really empowered. It makes me feel empowered and hopeful.
For sure.
Because as much as
it's not out of your hands. And I think a lot of times we think
cookies
but 80-20, right? If you're eating healthy, you should be able to have cookies or have, you should be able to enjoy life. I'm a foodie. I love good food. And so, you know what? And I'm sure some of the sauces and stuff they're putting on this steak or chicken or whatever isn't the most healthy, but you know what? The rest of the meal is really healthy. Like for me, I'm eating a healthy meal. So like I said, 80-20 rule. Enjoy life, enjoy food, but enjoy the right foods, right? And educate yourself on ingredients. There's the great thing now is there's apps you can scan it with your phone and boom, immediately it'll tell you, it'll give you like red flags of why this thing would be good or horrible for you.
Yeah. I know. And how much of us like just to not know? Like, because if I don't know, then maybe I don't.
Well, the easy way to know is,
then
like
I'm
I
just
said,
getting dragged behind the car. It's not my fault.
if you don't know, then it's just easy to know. If you're buying something in a package, bottle, or can, chances are it's not good for you. So limit those to 20% or less.
One thing that I love about, as I've been working with Chelsi, and Chelsi, as I mentioned, is a little bit more extreme than me, but she's always making suggestions of things that you can replace something with, and we'll get into that more, because I didn't want this to be like a whole, like, here's how we're going to eat from now on. I think that the biggest takeaway that I think is important today is that the brain is correctable. It's something that we can have control over. Just because you have somebody in your family who has had brain disease and Alzheimer's, dementia, that doesn't mean that that's the track you have to be on. You know, we have to, it's hard to make it super simple because the brain is controlling so many things. And I think that, you know, we can't sit here and say, here's the one thing that you can do, you know, or maybe even the three things that you can do. I think overall, the hope that exists is that you can be in control of your brain. And to what degree you decide to implement healthy eating choices and managing your stress and sugar. Oh, it's such a hard thing for me. I'm such a sugar.
Do you know why it's hard?
Yes, I actually do. It's
more addictive chemically to your brain. It's more addictive than heroin.
I have cut out Skittles. I want you guys to know. I had a little process. Like I used to like Skittles a lot. And so I would just have like a little bag of Skittles. And then I switched to these little baby Skittles. They're so cute. They have them at the grocery store. So I was just having these little baby Skittles. I was really proud of myself. And now I don't even need them at all. I just had to wean it.
Yeah.
You guys, the Skittles are bad. In fact, I think that they are ranked as the #1 worst thing you can possibly, worst candy. I don't know what the best is, but I'm trying to limit my
dark
candy.
chocolate. Dark chocolate is, I know, that's what most people go, But if you want a good sugar choice, if you like dark chocolate, take that as your good sugar choice.
You know what I'm going to tell you? I have switched to.
What?
For my sweet tooth, which is strong. And I love apples with a little bit of peanut butter. Like, I like to go to this place that's here. I should take you there. It's called the Nut Garden. But there's a lot of like natural grocery stores and stuff that like, you know, grind their own peanut butter.
Oh, wow.
And so you just get this little thing of like freshly ground peanut butter. It was so good. And I have an apple a day with just like a little thing of peanut butter. And whether it's perfect or not, it's not Skittles. It tastes delicious. It makes me feel full. I chew. It's crunchy. I think that's a good choice. In the Apple Girl era.
That's what I try to tell people that do have real sweet tooths. I'm like, try to replace some of the sweets with fruit. Mm-hmm. Fruit, because you're getting, your body processes sugar, fructose, like in the sugar, it processes it differently because you're not eating refined sugar. I mean, you're eating like a blueberry or an apple, but it has all these other cofactors in there and fibers and different things in there. Your body processes it different. And so there's a whole study on blueberries that they did with that and compared to sugar. And it showed the spike and crash with sugar, and then it showed the spike with blueberries. And then as it came down, it leveled off. It didn't crash. And so, yeah, you will get an insulin spike, you know, from that. But when it comes back down, you won't crash like you do eating just ultra processed sugar.
Yeah. So that's been a process for me. I think when I first was working with Chelsi, afternoon sugar candy was such a hot topic for me. And it's interesting that I think that as you're around, you know, you're thinking about it, you're visualizing, you're trying to make, like, it really took me shifting what I wanted my end result to be for me to finally be like, okay, I can probably do without this. And you know what? When it's the 4th of July and I'm going to eat a Twizzler, and I'm just going to be like, red dyes, yes.
No, you can't anymore. They banned the red dyes.
Yeah.
The FDA
I'm
just...
so worried about the Twizzlers, you know. And the
You want to know what one of my childhood treats was? Was Twizzlers. I'd bite off both ends and then
use it as a straw.
And sip Coke through it. That's how I grew up.
Yeah.
But you learn, I think part of too is you've increased your protein, right? And protein helps to stabilize your blood sugars.
It makes you not as, I certainly don't feel as hungry or start to feel those like, in fact, the challenge now is I can't eat enough. Like I'm not hungry enough to eat all the protein, and you guys should see Chelsi, how big a bite she takes. I literally, I can't take those big bites.
Just eat a can.
So that's why I'm working,
chicken, right?
I'm working on taking bigger bites.
Well, the fight or flight, though, like we said, doesn't just affect your cortisol levels; it affects your insulin. So you're like it's almost making you crave sugar, you know, at certain times of the day as you're crashing, and so as you're kind of also stabilizing that fight or flight, it also can help to curb some of those carb cravings. But there's one other thing in the gut. You do have a thing called candida. Have you heard of candida?
Have I heard of candida? Just bad things, yes.
Well, it's not all bad, though. Candida, like everybody has candida, and candida has a purpose. It helps to, when you have too much sugar, it helps to gobble the sugar up to help maintain good blood sugar levels, right?
Okay.
So it's actually, in small amounts, it's beneficial to the body. But when you have a high sugar diet, carbohydrate diet, then you grow the colony. No, it keeps up. You grow the colony, and then you get candida overgrowth. And then when you have candida overgrowth, that candida actually makes you crave sugar.
I wish you could see the image in my head of the candida
colony
of the colony that I'm probably dealing with right now.
It legitimately it makes you crave sugar because now you have this big colony, and if you don't have an overgrowth or you don't have too much sugar right now, well, now it's like you got to feed the sugar. Yeah. You got to feed the demon.
Talking to you.
Give me some Skittles. Feed me. Well, and then here's the great news. I think I told you, I've been working with Chelsi for 4 years, and it has not, like, obviously, you look at me, I'm not ripped, as Connor would tell you. You know, poor Chelsi's like, please don't tell people you've been working with me that long.
So let's just review it. How old are you again?
I'm 53.
Okay. I think most women would love to be in the shape that you're in at 53.
No, and I'm very, very proud of myself.
Yeah.
Very proud of myself because consistency has been hard for me, and I have been consistent. And even if it's been slow progress, I am very proud of myself. I don't want to be on a stage ever. you know, like that is not my thing. I do want to be able to maybe do 1 or 2 pull-ups. I don't want to tell.
Oh, I haven't heard this.
I should not tell.
It's a new goal. Do you hear that? Do you hear that, trainer?
Oh my gosh, that was. And I have sweaty hands, and so it's going to make it so hard. Right?
They have chalk.
Yeah.
There we go. We solved that concern.
Yeah.
But here's what has happened, is that as I'm working on these little, and this is why it's called the shift. A little bit better here, and a little bit better here, like. I go from big Skittles to little Skittles. That's like a win. Sorry, I know it's embarrassing, right? And I am working so hard to have my head hit the pillow before midnight. You guys don't even know how huge of a shift that has been for me. And I get out of my bed and I go straight outside. And my previous action is to lay there with my phone for 2 hours and get lost in scrolling and lost in answering DMs and down a trail, and now I'm $300 into buying, you know, who knows what. And I don't even miss picking up my phone in the morning like I used to. Little teeny tiny shifts that are building, and I couldn't have ever done it all at once. The resistance is too high, and I would feel then rebellious, and then I would start skirting and cheating, and now I don't have to cheat. And when I'm having a hard day, and all I can think about is a donut. This happened recently. I wanted a donut so bad, And then I didn't get it. And then I went the next day. All I could think about was a donut. And then I didn't know if I wanted chocolate on a sprinkled donut. And it's just like this debate. I'm like, okay. Third day. And this is around Cory's death day. And it's the emotional cravings are real. Even, and so I finally was like, you know what? Who cares? I got a chocolate and a sprinkled donut. But I thought, you know what, let's be reasonable. I cut it in half and I just took one half of each because that was just one donut, right? I get to both words. I took it upstairs on a plate. I didn't even eat it. I got busy. I got thinking about other stuff. I'm very easily distracted. And I came back up and it was still sitting there and I was like, oh, I didn't even eat it. So it's interesting. Like, we have to be a little bit gentle on ourselves. I love that Chelsi, she's like, I'm so proud of you for eating small Skittles. And she's just like, and I have this client that, whatever. No. I want to invite you to come on this journey. I want to invite you to make teeny tiny shifts in these areas that are going to end up major swings of change in your body. Your brain is your greatest resource for success for the rest of your life. And so whatever you could glean from this conversation, I really will use olive oil in my brownies. Which I know, there's sugar in the brownies, but maybe I'll just cut them into smaller squares, eat it throughout the day so that I can prolong, not get the huge side. I'm teasing you guys. But if I told myself I can't have brownies anymore, then it wouldn't work. It has to be this slow change. And I will promise you to what Dr. Vohn said, is that when you go and read the research and you learn, it hits different. When you get curious, it hits different. And when you change that vision that you're going for, and you decide, I want to be driving the cart instead of being dragged behind it, it changes what you're willing to do, what you're able to do, what you're interested in doing. And that's going to be the difference between feeling vibrant, feeling excited, feeling alert, and feeling like you don't have any choices. It's worth it. The next time we're together, we're going to talk about body composition and why we're not going to diet to hit a certain number on the scale. It's going to be good news. It's going to be empowering. So I want you to come back. I know that we've talked about a lot of stuff. Stay with us. We're going to get there, and we're going to start answering questions and creating solutions that will make you feel empowered, hopeful, excited, and it's going to change the game. So thank you for coming, and thank you for listening, and thank you for getting a little bit curious, being willing to maybe challenge some of the things that you always thought, being a little bit more open, taking the Gore-Tex jacket off just a little bit, because you're worth it. Your brain's worth it. Your family's worth it. Your happiness is worth it. So come back next time. And until then, we'll just eat healthy brownies.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. You don't have to be perfect, like I said. if you can eat healthy 80% of the time, have your brownies. I mean, enjoy life. You don't have to be...
Enjoy life.
Enjoy life.
Yep. Yeah. Memories over macros. That's what I tell my clients. Memories over macros.
Okay, that's going to be a good tagline.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Dr. Vohn Watts, chiropractor and founder of Foundational Wellness, shares his insights on how the body functions as a whole system, along with the principles he uses to help people get on the path to better health. Please remember, the information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended to replace medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Every person is unique, and your health decisions should always be made in consultation with a qualified healthcare professional who knows your individual circumstances. Neither Dr. Watts nor this podcast is responsible for any actions you choose to take based on the discussions in these episodes.